Hi, and welcome to your biomechanics tune-up for the knees. Today, we're going to be focused on the knee joints, and you'll learn a little bit about your knee joints, maybe stuff that you didn't know before. And we're going to get into some movement to protect you from injury and make things really strong there so that you can avoid any aches, pains, and injuries. So let's get into it. Ah, we're going to start with a little bit of breathing. And we're going to start standing today. So you're welcome to either, if you're seated, remain seated for a few breaths, or if you are standing already, just simply close your eyes, place your hands on your heart or on your belly, and take the deepest breath you've taken yet today. And get present to your breathing, because we're going to be breathing this whole practice. Breath is huge while you move. This is Cha Cha. She is our resident yoga cat, and she's going to be helping us out today. And take one more big breath. See if you can feel your belly, your ribs, and your upper chest all expanding and contracting as you take this last breath. And then gently blink your eyes open and give your legs a little pat all the way down and all the way up. And just kind of awaken your body, awaken your legs a little bit. So here are a few fun facts for you about your knees. Okay, your knees are actually the biggest joint in your body. And even though they don't look like it, you might be saying to yourself, well, but the hip joint looks like it's obviously the biggest because it's the biggest part of the body, but the actual joint, actually that ball and socket joint is fairly small. Um, the knee joint is much bigger than the hip joint. And it has no muscle. So part of what makes your hip joint look bigger is because you've got all these glutes, you've got all these hip flexors, and tons of ligaments. And your knee has some ligaments. So it is actually a synovial hinge joint, which means that it relies a lot on the joint fluid production, on the movement of the joint fluid in your knee. And because it has no muscle in the joint and like around the joint, it relies heavily on the muscles below and above. So that's how we strengthen for the knee joint. So there are a couple of things that can help us produce more joint fluid. So we're going to go through 3 simple exercises just to help you produce more joint fluid. So first one is butt kicks. And if you just take your heel and try to kick your own butt, that's how you do that one. Pretty simple and easy. You can do it anywhere you are. Next one we're going to do are knee circles. So come with your feet together and your knees, the inside of your knees touching. Place your hands right above your knees, and we're going to circle, 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 and breathe at the same time. Yes. Now we're going to reverse. There we go. I can say that today. Yes. Again, the other way. Reverse. So we want to make sure, let's reverse again, that the fluid is moving through the knees. Sometimes it can kind of puddle. Think about the street, accumulates a little bit of water. There's a puddle, but it's actually not moving, it's just stagnant. So this moves that joint fluid around. And it asks your body to produce more joint, like, hey, send me some more, send me some more synovial fluid. Now, we're going to have a seat on the floor or in a chair. That works too. But we're going to do some knee stretches. And so the best way to kind of understand how the knee stretches work are to either come into a squat position, or you can come into a cross-legged position, easy pose, or Siddhasana. And just kind of notice how your knees feel here. So stop for a moment, take a breath. And then you'll pick one side or the other, and you'll put your forearm in the pit of the knee. And if you flex your foot, you can kind of anchor down and squeeze your forearm. You squeeze it nice and tight and then release, and then squeeze it and release. Squeeze it and release. We're going to do several more of these. So 5, relax and breathe. 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, here's what people say about this exercise. I work with a number of athletes in private sessions. And for the ones who have tweaky knees, they say, if I go for a run or play tennis, what have you, and I do this before and after, my knees feel a lot better, like markedly better, than if I don't. My knees will ache if I don't do this. So this is something to keep in mind. Keep it in your back pocket, but also use it preventively. It's a preventive exercise as well. Last 2. Release. And then you'll either come into your squat or your crisscross easy pose. And you may notice a change in how your knees feel in this pose. So take a nice deep breath. And then we're going to push through the feet, come up to a standing position, because we're going to work on the connection. Like I said before, you don't have knee muscles, but you do have muscles that support your knee joint. So we're going to start with with a few exercises for the knee to ankle connection, right? Knee to ankle connection. So I want you to pull all of your toes up, all 10 toes up. And we're going to do some toe exercises because the muscles in your lower legs control your toes. If you just kind of tap your toes on the floor a little bit, alternating right and left, tapping on the floor, you will get a sense that, yes, my calves, my tibials are working. We're going to lift all the toes up here and then stretch the big toes forward. So you can also use your hands, kind of like, looks like you're going to play the piano a little bit, but your toes love to mirror your hands. So your hands can actually make it a little easier. You're going to stretch your big toes forward. You can kind of play the piano here with your thumbs. And then stretch your pinkies and pinky toes out. See if you can touch your pinky toe on the floor as well. And the middle 3 are up. Now, if you have a good sense of humor, you might get a good laugh here because at first, your feet might be a little bit more uncooperative. And then relax your feet to the floor. Try not to pinch your toes. Just try to let them be natural. Here we go again, lifting all the toes up. Stretching your big toes forward, just letting them relax to the floor. Taking your pinky toe and pinky finger out, touching that pinky toe to the floor, leaving the middle 3 toes, the middle 3 fingers if you're using your hands up. Hold for a breath and then relax. Good. One more time, just like that. Lifting the toes, stretching those big toes forward. Pinkies and pinky toes out. Relaxing your toes onto the floor. And then letting all of your toes rest. All right, now we're going to do a little ankle exercise to kind of wake up all of the muscles in the lower leg. So I want you to just balance on one foot. You can just stand on one foot. You can come into a tree pose or any balance position that you enjoy. It doesn't matter really where you're at, but I want you to feel your ankle moving. Your ankle is going to twitch a little bit right and left. That really is how we balance, is we deal with this muscle contracting, that one letting go, the grab and the tug and the pull. Now, let's say you have really good balance already, and you're like, well, I don't feel a whole lot going on, so I'd like a challenge. You're welcome to stand on a block on that standing foot. Okay. Tree pose or any other balance position that you like. I quite like this one actually because it also gets my hip a little bit involved. You're welcome to transition into this one as well. Find a nice little quiet moment and then transition into this one if you like. Don't forget to breathe here. And roll the ankle. Roll, roll, roll. Excellent. Go ahead and step down off the block, or if you were standing on the floor, just take a few steps. You're going to shake out some of that tension there. And then we are going to go and roll, flip the block over. And we're going to stand either on the block if you were balancing on the block, or if you're balancing on the floor, you're welcome to it. You are welcome to come into tree pose, or you can come into this pose here with the hands wrapped around the front underneath the knee joint. Also, if you were balancing on that block before, you may want to do the same to give yourself a little challenge and build up a little extra strength in that ankle to knee connection. And if you do deal with aches and pains in your knees, that's something I help people with. And these are just a few in a large library of exercises. So if you want more, you can hit me up and we'll talk about how to work on that. All right, we're going to slowly, gently come out. Take your block over to the side if you chose to use a block. And you're going to find a spot like, if you have a piece of furniture like this, like a sofa, you could sit maybe perhaps against the sofa. I have a nice wall here, so actually I'm going to use the wall. What I want you to do is have a seat against that straight piece of furniture or your wall. And as you sit down, you're going to sit so that you have a little curve in your low back, so natural lumbar curve. That means that you're able to put your pelvis and your shoulder blades up against the surface, up against the wall. The wall is kind of the perfect place because it's got the baseboards and then the nice flat surface for your shoulder blades. And we're going to stay here and take a couple of deep breaths. And one of the areas that really, really supports the knee are the quadriceps, and in the back of the leg, the hamstring. So we're going to start by working the quadriceps. So take a nice deep breath. Take your 3 fingers, TP fingers, and stick them on the floor so you lift your chest and keep your shoulder blades and hip back of the pelvis connected to the wall. Exhale and lift your leg. Inhale, put the leg down. Now that might mean more than you bargained for. So if you have a strong cramp in your leg, you're going to take the heel of your hand and go down the length of the muscle. And then you might start off by pretending to lift the leg, but creating a strong contraction in the leg. All right, you're going to pull your thigh a little bit into the hip socket. Inhale, exhale, lift. Good. Put your foot down. Inhale, exhale, lift. Put your leg down. Inhale, exhale, lift. Leg down. Now we're going to check out that second side. If that's intense, don't worry about it. As you practice this, you're going to get a lot stronger. And other benefits to this exercise are like your hamstrings will release. You'll have nice, long, but strong hamstrings. So inhale here, exhale, lift. Inhale to put the leg down and exhale, lift. That's right, cha-cha. You're gonna do leg lifts with us. Inhale again. And exhale, lift. Because we're creating a pretty strong contraction, we don't need to do a ton of them. So a few of these will do. But sit up nice and tall, take your legs a little bit apart, and then internally rotate so that the big toes touch. And as those big toes touch, you might feel the outside of your hips, your glute medius muscles right here, turning on and then relaxing. I want you to feel that a few times because we're going to work with glute medius today. And hold this time when your toes come together. Imagine that you're put, this is traction. Traction is like you push out, but you don't actually let your feet slide apart. You just create tension, right? So just push, but hold yourself in that position and breathe in and out. And another deep breath in and out. And then let go here, let go here. Now, if going up against the wall does something for your back that's not great, what you can do is put yourself in a chair with a high back and then put something like a Pilates ball or a block behind your heart so that you sit up straight and you're more toward the edge of the chair. So that can work like that too, just in case you need it. All right. Ah, let's see. All right, we're gonna come all the way up to standing and we're gonna do a 3-point lunge. So if you have, there are many people who, when they start to bend their knees come in a little bit. And this is more dangerous than it is to be bowed-legged. For example, if you take a group of soccer players whose knees come in toward each other, a significantly larger percentage of them have knee issues, like larger knee issues that require surgery. The bowed-legged soccer players, however, have fewer knee injuries, and that's because the blood supply for the knee runs along the outside of the knee. So if you injure the outside of your knee, that's a lot easier to repair with exercise than it is if you injure the ligaments on the inside of the knee. So right now I'm going to teach you how to keep the pressure more toward the outside line, which is a little bit rare. Most of us have more pressure toward the inside big toe than the little toe. So right now I want you to stand in a high lunge. And it doesn't matter how high or low your lunge is, but this is what I mean by a high lunge. Okay, this is a crescent lunge in yoga or an Anjaneyasana. And so lift your belly button up, lift your chest up. Now I want you to focus on 3 points. I'm going to show you those 3 points right now. I'm going to stand right over cha-cha. So we have the hip point, the knee point, the ankle point. Now imagine these points had kind of a line that connected them. Might be the seam of your pants. I have a seam in my pants right here. So I'm going to just energetically, I'm going to show you what this looks like from the front. I'm not going to press, there we go. I'm not going to press out so that my knee like moves out. That's not really great for the ligaments in the knee, but I want you to energetically press into the outside line and connect your pinky toe to the floor. This is why one reason we did the pinky toe exercise, or I chose that exercise as one of the ones for the lower leg. You can feel a connection between the pinky toe up the side of the ankle, the knee, the hip. And we're going to hold the pressure for a minute. Breathe in. Breathe out. If you like to lift your arms up, please do so, but keep your shoulders nice and relaxed. Pull your thigh a little bit into your hip socket. Again, we're going to use this upper thigh muscle that we just turned on in that last exercise against the wall. We got about one more breath here. And then gently come out. We're going to do the other side. let's say you're a runner and you go for a run and your knees are a little tweaky sometimes, or maybe you just want to prevent anything. Um, this also can make you run faster, by the way. If you come into this and press into these three dots and the lines that connect them and get your pinky toe activated, bounce it on the floor a few times, and then gently let the pressure settle and breathe. When you activate your pinky toe, in my experience with runners, for example, they get faster. It's a power move. It's a subtle move, but man, it's powerful. So if you like to go fast, there's an opportunity for that with a little bit of toe work, pinky toe work. Now pull this thigh just a tad bit into the hip socket. So it just more engages than anything else. It's these muscles right here near where you would kind of put your hand in your pocket. We're going to gently come out and then take a little walk. And you might feel a little bit more energy along this outside line of your leg, knee, and ankle. And if you do, that's fantastic. And if you're not sure if you do or not, that's also fantastic. All right, we're going to take one more deep breath. And we're going to end with two more exercises. So, like I said, we're going to focus a little bit on glute medius. And Cha-Cha, I'm going to ask you to share this part of the mat with me because I need it. Um, so she is deep into her Pilates bath here. So find yourself a spot on your mat where you can lie down on your back and take a block with you. Now, I want you to watch this exercise first before you lie down on the floor all the way, so you don't have to kind of look over your shoulder at it. So here's how it goes. This is one of my favorite glute medius exercises. We are going to make sure that you're not pushing your back into the floor, first of all, and that you have this natural lumbar curve. Now you're going to lift your heel off the floor and then keep your heel off the floor. Game over if your heel touches. Okay. So we're going to take this block, and as you start to rotate your knee toward the floor, I want you to slide this block under your knee. All right. Your body might slightly kind of move this way, or you might be a little bit more up toward the ceiling, and that depends on you and your body. So what we're looking for is for this muscle to be the main character of this exercise. And here's how we do it. This top foot is going to rest right on the inside of the foot. Come into this pose with me. Heel is up, knee is touching the block. You may be slightly rotated or less rotated, depending on how your body works. And when you push your knee down into the block and your toes into the floor, I want you to feel for your glute medius, that outside of the hip muscle. Press, breathe. And if you feel muscles in the front of your hip, or you feel a bunch of muscles, your glute maximus, I want you to do less effort. So if you're trying to lift your hips all the way up, you might totally miss the exercise. You might have to work a little less with a less effort than you think you need. Just a little pressure and hold. Take a breath in and out. In and out. One more breath. And then we'll slowly, gently come out. And we're going to switch to the other side. So again, the heel is up off the floor. Toes are down. The knee is on the block. You might be slightly rotated with your torso. You might have to play with that a little bit. See what works for you. Top foot rests gently on the inside of your ankle with a little downward pressure here for glute medius to turn on. Hold and breathe. and relax. Put your feet on the floor. We're going to do one more on each side. So if you weren't sure if you got it on that first round, this round usually gives you a little bit more information. So we're going to come back into this and we're going to press down with the knee and the toes, the outside line of the toes. And breathe in and out. Slowly let go, come out, and go to the other side. So I started off this exercise doing as much as I possibly could, getting my hips as high as I possibly could. And it was totally missing the mark of my glute medius. So be willing to do less. Sometimes less is more. We're going to push down with the outside of the pinky toe. The heel is off the floor. The knee is pressing down into the block. You can feel that outside hip muscle working here, being the main character of this exercise. This pose, this is something I call reverse clamshell. It works way better than a regular clamshell at what it's supposed to do, which is work on that muscle. Slowly, gently come out and take a deep breath. All right, now we're going to remove the block and we're going to roll onto the belly. So we're going to do a little bit of hamstring work. Now, if it's not good for you to be on your belly for whatever reason, you could do this. Let me show you real quick what I would do if it's not okay for you to lie on your belly. Is I would go to maybe a counter or a table and place the elbows on the counter or table, and I would work here instead of lying on the floor. I would stand on one foot and work here. All right, so here we are. Support your chin with your hands and take a nice deep breath and feel your body parts that are touching the floor. And then choose a side, any side, and bend your knee and flex your foot. Now I'm going to lift. So I'm working with my left. If you're working on the left with me, great. If you're working on the right, that's fine too. I'm going to exhale and lift the thigh off the floor. And then I'm going to gently pull I'm going to think about like the upper thigh pulling into the hip socket this way toward my head. It's just a tiny, teeny, teeny, tiny little 2 millimeter movement. And I'm going to hold and breathe. Thinking thigh bone off the floor, upper thigh into the hip socket. One more breath. And then I'm going to extend the leg and keep the thigh off the floor. Flex the foot. Breathe. And then gently lower the leg. All right, side two. I'm trying not to put too much pressure on cha-cha here. All right, bend your knee and lift your thigh off the floor. Pull your thigh bone in toward your hip socket. Take a nice deep breath. Focus on how calm you are on the inside, even if you feel a lot of work in the leg. On this last breath, I'm going to extend the leg. I'm going to keep the foot flexed, and I'm going to keep that upper thigh bone kind of hugging in to the hip socket. And then I'm going to lower to the floor. Let's do that one more time on each side. Bend the knee, exhale to lift the leg. Pull that thigh bone into the hip socket just a tiny bit and breathe in and out. Keep that thigh bone hugging into the hip socket. Straighten the leg. Keep a little flexion in your ankle. Lift that thigh off the floor. Hold. And other side. Flex the foot. Lift the thigh. Lift it. Pull that thigh bone in toward the hip socket. That little tiny movement makes a big difference. Lengthen the leg. Keep your foot flexed. Pull that thigh bone one more time in, just like a micromillimeter. And then slowly lower the leg. Beautiful. Take a breath. And then take your hands back to your waist. Push back into a hands and knees pose. And we're going to end with a little knee soother. Again, coming into those, into some knee stretches. We're going to do 3 on each side, just to repeat that. And then 3 on this side. Get a little bit more joint fluid moving now that we've done all those exercises. This is kind of like I love this, it's like a bookend, right, before and after. And then we're going to do one more little soother, and I'll leave you to rest. We're going to take the knees and we're going to kind of move the knees in opposite directions, kind of like you're stirring a pot in opposite directions. Feeling those ligaments in there, moving around a little bit and reverse the direction. It's almost like you're booting the joint fluid around through the ligaments. And then you might want to take a nice little simple twist just to release that low back, as it's also connected to the knees. And then a twist the other way. And then you can rest in Shavasana or in legs up the wall, which is actually really good for your knees too, since it drains the lymph all the way back to your heart. But I'm just going to give a big shout out to you who chose to show up live. It's always a great pleasure being with you live. It's always fun. And to those of you showing up after the fact, if you couldn't make it and you're watching the replay, a big shout out to you too. And again, until I see you next, take really good care. Bye for now.